Nee, als het die is echt. Het is een nice tool. Ik heb het ook een keer geprobeerd. Ja, aan de andere kant, als je een cursus ja, weet ik. Maar zijn laptops van MSI, die hebben een SteelSeries, zoals de SteelSeries.
Okay. Come on, guys. Hey. So, we have a lot to cover, and we have to go through it very quickly, so I would appreciate it if everybody pays attention. I'm going to explain how to make rapid prototypes, because this is something you will need to make. You will need to make some kind of a prototype in order to do your usability experiment. Most of the theory I'm going to discuss here is from a book that I actually borrowed from the library in The Hague, from Dassault School, and the title is here on the main slide. It's a very nice book. If you are interested in this kind of stuff, you can borrow the book from the library and have a look at it. Okay, so why do we make these prototypes of our systems? Here we have a quote from an artist: make objects that talk and then listen to them. This is basically what we're going to do. We're going to make some kind of an artifact, some kind of an object that represents our final system, and then it will start telling us what's actually is going to happen, what our final system is going to do when we actually give it to the world. What is prototyping? A prototype is a version of the final product that can be tested and refined. And there's a whole range of prototypes. A prototype can be a very crude paper mock-up, which we will see in a bit, just a sketch on a piece of paper. There's already a prototype of your system. Or can be a pre-release version of the actual product. So alpha releases of software, beta releases of software, these are also prototypes of the final product. They're not fully complete, but you can already use them to test the product and get some feedback about it. Have a seat very quickly, please. Prototypes are mainly classified into low fidelity and high fidelity. Low fidelity is like the prototype, the paper prototype. It's very quickly made, very not detailed, the wireframe of your final system. Or can be high fidelity. It looks exactly like the final system. It works more or less like the final system. This is what we call a high fidelity prototype. The more refined the prototype, the more refined the response to it will likely be. So if you have just a wireframe, then people will kind of mainly see what it will look like. But of course, if it looks more like the final product, then people will be more engaged with it and give you more representative data, maybe, for the final product. Which leads us to a very obvious question. So, high fidelity prototypes, a prototype that looks more or less like the final product, are better for testing than low fidelity prototypes. Now, is that true or false? Who thinks it's true? A high fidelity prototype that looks like the final product is better for testing than low fidelity prototype. Yes? You think it's true? False. Yeah? False? Why do you think it's false?
Because if it gets a lot of changes afterwards, you have a lot of more work to do.
Ah, very good. Very good. Yes?
It's both really both good and bad. Both versions are high fidelity and low fidelity are both equally important.
Are both important. They both, so you guys, you are all correct. And I like it because the obvious answer will be like the high fidelity prototypes are better because they are closer to the final product. But the points that are made here are also very correct, because in order to make a high fidelity prototype, you need to invest much more time into making the prototype. And then if the whole idea sucks, then you have wasted all this time into making the prototype and you're throwing all that work away. So something that I really want you to start thinking about, and which some of you are already thinking about it, which is a very good thing, is that there is no ultimate answer. There is no like, this is better, this is worse. Everything comes with trade-offs. Trade-offs, like there are compromises with everything. This is a better prototype, but we need to invest more money and resources into making. Like some people are arguing all the time, iOS is better, no, Android is better, no, this one is better, no, this one is better. This is a very stupid discussion, because these operating systems, although similar, are different in fundamental ways. iOS is more designed for streamlined usability for people who don't care about customization. Android is more customizable. If you care about customization, then Android is better for you. If you care about just having something that works and you don't care, you will just do whatever it allows you to do, then iOS is better. There is no one of them that's ultimately better. Everything has its own compromises and advantages. And when designing things, you will always have to make these decisions. You will always have to make a decision like, okay, this will help me achieve this functionality, but it will make this thing a little bit worse. Okay, I need to add more functionalities, which will make the product can do more for the user, but then it will be more complicated to use because the product can do so many things. Exactly what we saw with the Apple TV. They added these more functionalities to it, they added the games to it, but then the remote became less usable and people started complaining. You wouldn't assume that people complain for more functionality, but this is what happens. So there's always a balance that you should keep in mind. So we start with low fidelity prototypes. They're usually very quick to make, therefore crude and unpolished, very quick. They have very limited functionality. Usually they don't work at all. They just show the rough look and feel. Okay, there will be a picture here and there will be some text here. This is how your website will look. There will be a navigation bar on the left and maybe a secondary navigation on the top. And here is the main content. That's already a prototype. They do not work, and functionality is simulated. And there will be different levels of simulating functionalities that we will discuss soon. They are generated and thrown away very quickly to test a specific concept. This is the key word here. You want to test a specific concept, and the prototype that you're going to make, these very quick prototypes that don't have the full functionality, you can simulate just one simple functionality, and this is the specific thing that you are trying to test. And in the prototype, if it can do like one function, and then you define your usability experiment and you give the user one task to do, which is the only thing that the prototype actually can do, and then this is the thing you care about, because this is the key feature of your device, and you want to see if people actually care about it or not, if it's useful for them or not. What do they appreciate it? Is it usable enough or not? So the prototype will do only one thing, maybe two things, and your usability experiment will test only these things that your prototype can do. And this is how you can make it very quickly, because you don't have to make the whole system. You just make this one thing or simulate. So here we have a prototype of a smartwatch. The prototype is actually just a piece of paper and a piece of cardboard that you wear on your wrist. And you have these different screens shown through your paper prototype to show different functionalities. And then with this, you can test many things. You can show this to the user and say, okay, here you have the world time for different countries. This is I don't know. Here's the date, here's the time. There's a picture of an Earth here. Maybe shows you where's the daylight and where's the night cycle. Here's your activity circles. So you can like switch to the other screen. Here you can see your how much activity you made. You know, like the circles on the Apple Watch to show your activity. And then just very quickly with this kind of very simple prototype that you can make in one afternoon, you can already show the main ideas that you are trying to develop in your final product. You can show it to a user, and then you can already get some feedback from the users like, hey, that's actually pretty cool. I would like to have these features on this watch. Oh, so I can always like just look at my wrist and see if I was very active today or not, or that I need to exercise more the rest of the day, or maybe stand up more because I was sitting the whole day. Hey, that's actually not bad. That's actually nice. I like it. I would pay for it. So you can test these things. You can have a prototype of your smartphone. Hey guys. You can have a prototype of your smartphone. You can have different interface screens, and then you can have people like touching the interface, and then it's like, so how would you open your email if you are looking at this screen? I say, oh, I would click here. I say, okay, if you click here, you take the prototype, and then you change the screen to the screen that would come up when you would click this button, and then you will show the other screen and say, okay, so this is what you get. Is this what you were expecting? It's like, no, this is not my email. So, okay, so apparently this interface is not clear. In your real prototype, you need to make the layout of the buttons or the text on the buttons a little bit different than what's your original idea is. So you see, already from these very simple prototypes, we can learn some things. In a similar way, you can make screens of the website that you're making. There is no functionality. You just show the website to the user and say, okay, so where would you click if you want to see a list of your contacts? Okay, I would click here. Then again, you will take the page and you will give them the next page, which will appear if they click here. So is this the page you were expecting? Okay, now if you want to send an email, where would you click? Etc. etc. You can show the flow of the app to maybe to other designers to discuss them with the team or with another team, maybe to present them to me or to the panel of judges later on, just to show how your system will flow. Another way is just so you have the different interfaces and you see like if you click here, you will go here, you click there, you will go here, and then you have notes about how the system actually works. Here, another very simple prototype is this very small flip book, and then it's kind of shaped like a smartphone. And then you ask the user, like, okay, I click here, I click there. And then you have these post-its, and then you can immediately flip to the page that you would go to if you click on that part of the interface. You can do the same thing also for applications, similar idea, same thing. You can do it digitally, so it doesn't have to be on paper. You can have like these digital mock-ups where you make drawings of your interface. Doesn't have to be completely fleshed out. The colors and the icons are not important. It's just the main functionality, the placement, and the flow inside the app is the main thing. Another thing that you can do with paper prototypes is called co-creation. Co-creation is really cool. You go to your manager and you say, hey, I had a co-creation session today with some end users. They will be like, wow, this guy is like ahead of the curve. Co-creation is basically sitting with your end users and then together designing the interface. And then you would give them these interface elements. Okay, here's a keyboard. Here's this list of days, list of contacts, and we want to make a mail app. How would you do it? What's the perfect interface for you? And then they will start putting things together. And what this helps you achieve because your users are not real designers, but this will help you achieve is like this insight into how your user is thinking. What is the most thing that is important to the user? And really helps you get outside of the box, because since the user is not limited by the traditional design rules, they are just focusing on what's important for them. They will show you things that you are unexpected. They will show you unexpected things and things it would have been really difficult for you to come up with yourself. So it kind of helps you generate new ideas. Physical prototypes are really cool. Like the picture I showed you in the beginning of the day of the other group from last year that printed a physical device. So here we have some very crude wooden prototypes, but some cool tools that we have today. This is a piece of software. It's called Pepakura, or whatever it's called. Here's a link to the website where you can download it from. And what you do is that you make a 3D model of the thing that you want, and then you put it inside the program, and then the program will actually make a 2D design of your 3D model with all these flaps that you can use to glue these parts together, so that when you put it together, it will make the final 3D shape for you. So you only have to print it on a normal printer, and then you can do as complicated or as simple physical objects as you want, just with a normal printer and paper. You can make something really big, but then you'll have to print it on many sheets of paper and glue everything together. And the more complicated you want to make the model, the more time you will have to spend in making things, gluing things together. But as you can see, you can immediately make something that is physical, and then just by showing this to the end user or the panel, you will immediately get them out of this imagine this looks like this, or this is in a device like this. You will immediately show them the final prototype. So it's also a very nice piece of software. So you can use it. I think maybe it's paid. I don't know how much functionality the free version has, but if you make a model, come to me. I will have the paid version, and then we will print it out for you, and you can continue making the prototype. If you want to make some real physical prototypes with laser cutters and 3D printers, then we are trying to have these facilities available in Zoetermeer, and they are kind of being ordered now, but they're not here yet. But for the time being, we have these facilities in Delft, and I already talked to the lab there. So if you have something that you want to print, come to me, and then I will try to arrange it for you. If you don't want to go through the hassle, you want to do it yourself, there is this Fab Lab in Zoetermeer. It's in the library, the new library, and the guy there really wants to collaborate with students from the household. So if you want, you can find a place, you can contact them. I already talked to the guy who's in charge there. Very nice guy. And you can use the facilities that are available there for you. So again, you can come talk to me. You can do this paper prototype. We can do it in Delft with 3D printers and laser cutters. And we can, you can also go to the Fab Lab here in Zoetermeer to get things done. Let me see here. So we have rough models. They can be made of paper, they can be made of cardboard, wood, clay, anything actually, as long as they represent the thing, they represent the idea that you want users to get. You can use them to test size, shape, weight, proportions of your final prototype. Hey. Hi.
Mag ik heel even 1 minuut inbreken of niet?
Tuurlijk.
We hebben dadelijk aansluitend gelijk hoorcollege over design. Ik weet niet of jullie behoefte hebben aan lunch tussendoor misschien.
Ja.
We kunnen om 1:15 of om 1 uur beginnen, wat jullie zelf willen.
Ja, alleen we hebben een ding.
Wat zeg je?
Ja,
Sure.
Nee, maar het is een vraag. Als het niet kan, of
Als het
hier
kan,
moet,
ja.
dan het niet.
Ja.
Maar
Als het kan, dan graag.
1:15, is iedereen daarmee eens? Dan zie ik jullie om 1:15. Gewoon in dit lokaal. Dankjewel.
We're almost done, okay? Let's finish quickly so you guys can eat. You can test the controls, whether you need physical buttons or you can just have things on the touch screen. And you can test the ergonomics, you know, the remote thing, whether it fits in the hand, whether you cannot tell whether it's the right size up or the upside down, etc., etc. You can test all these things with a physical prototype. A popular way of testing is called the Wizard of Oz, when you're like the puppeteer and you're controlling the little puppet. So let's say that your idea is to make this artificial intelligence robot that can, I will tell him, the robot, hey, robot, go tell the person in the other room to come and bring me a coffee. And then the robot will immediately understand what you want. And then the robot will go to the other room and say something to the person in the other room. So you as a user will be like, hey, this thing is really smart. Yes, it understands what I'm saying. It can navigate. It knows how to navigate by itself. But actually, there is this Wizard of Oz. So there is another person who is hiding in the corner, watching by camera. He's listening to what you said. And then he is driving the robot with a remote control to go to the other room, and then using a microphone to make the robot speak. Because the robot actually is a very stupid robot. It's a prototype, and it doesn't have any of the functionality. But the functionality is simulated by the Wizard of Oz, who is hiding in the other room and controlling everything. So this is a very common way to test prototypes, and it's called the Wizard of Oz. So I didn't come up with this name myself. If you search and research for Wizard of Oz setups, you will find plenty of examples. You can also use the Wizard of Oz for paper prototypes. You're just sitting next to the person, so you're also, again, the brains behind the paper prototype. They just press a piece of paper, and then the paper disappears, and then you put another paper in front of them, but then you're very visible. If you are making a digital prototype, so if you make it into on the computer screen, you can then maybe control the computer from another keyboard on the side, so it's not very obvious that you're controlling things. Or you can just like mirror the screen on another screen, another room, and then also play with what's happening. So there you can also simulate functionality using the Wizard of Oz setup. So thereby you save time and money by not having to implement all the functionalities beforehand. To make digital prototypes, you can use a different type of programs, and again, you can make low fidelity prototypes. So just here, I have an example of an interface I made for a company a long time ago, and there you can see it's just a very crude layout of how the interface will look like. And this I made using a PowerPoint, so I use Keynote, which is the Mac version of PowerPoint. You can use PowerPoint. You can use Photoshop to make drawings. You can use Inkscape, which is a free source vector-oriented drawing program. It's similar to Illustrator from Adobe. So if you want to make a more high fidelity prototype, so this was done using Photoshop, where it's another prototype that I created for another company. And here you can see that it looks more or less like the final product would look like. And you can do that. There are tools online. So here there's a file online you can download, iOS 7 iPhone widgets, where it has all the interface elements that you can use to drag and drop and make your own interface of an iOS application. I will give all the demos later on towards the end. There are software that is designed specifically to test usability of digital systems, where you can simulate also the functionality. One of them is Adobe XD. You can get a very cheap subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud from the SurfSpot. Everybody knows SurfSpot? Yes. So from SurfSpot, you can get a year subscription for around 11 euros. And if you have that, you can download the Adobe XD software. And with Adobe XD, you can make a digital prototype. So let's see here. Here I have a prototype of an application that was done last year by one of the students with Adobe XD. And you can see that here we have all the screens of the application. And you can see that they have meticulously made all the details, all the widgets, all the buttons. And then you have to design the flow from each button and each screen to which other screen. So here you can see that for the back button, you go to the previous screen. If you click on the login, you go to this screen. If you new menu from Pizza, you will go to that screen, etc., etc. So you define the whole prototype of your system, and then you run it, and then you have this kind of, it's not an application, it's just a drawing or a series of drawing, but then you can simulate some functionality. So if you click on somewhere in the screen, then it actually does have some kind of functionality, and it looks really slick. It looks, it has these animations from one screen to the next, and you can test. You can test how the end user is going to interact with your application. So this is a very nice piece of software to use. Again, Adobe XD to simulate functionality. Let's see what else I can show you. Here I just have a mock-up of an app that I just used. It doesn't. It's not used for a test, but I just used to show different functionality. So just to illustrate it to the manager, let's say, and then I just showed that each part of the interface, and then what would happen if you click on some part of the interface, what kind of interface elements there are, what's the function of each of these interface elements. This is more like high fidelity, but it's more for illustrating things, not really for testing with end users. I have here another example of a wireframe prototype, which is the one I showed in the other slides. So you can type something here, you search, you get these results. If you click on one of the results, it will open next to you. The idea of this prototype was that you have a visual representation of the time you have spent using that. So every time you move a little further, you have all these previous things that you've done. Things you've done in parallel stay together. And then if you move on, so if you open more articles, they are kept here. Then if you click on information in this plane, then they collapse, and then you start opening more information, etc., etc. So that was the idea that I wanted to show in this prototype, and this is what I illustrated here. Let's see. In this prototype, this was just done with a presentation, and inside the presentation, I put some links. So I put like I put some invisible boxes here, and if you click on this box, it will take you to another slide in the presentation. And let me see. The way we did that, we actually tested that with real end users. This was supposed to be a smart TV interface for senior citizens that would help them check their email on their TV very easily. And what we did is that we showed them this iPad as like a smart remote control to the TV. And then they could click on things on the iPad, and the interface would, the TV was mirroring what was on the iPad. So the interface will change based on what you are clicking on. So it looked like a very interactive system. They can already see the different functionalities. They can click on the back button, and then things will actually work but in actual reality, it's just an interactive PowerPoint presentation. So you just click here, click there, and then you can see that it simulates these functionalities. So these are all very different ways, but very simple ways. We're almost done, huh? Very simple ways to simulate interactive systems with very simple software tricks. Where's my mouse? So you can use, again, Adobe XD. Azure is a similar program to Adobe XD. You can, even if you don't want to buy anything, you can download the trial version, use it to make the prototype and test it during the course, and then throw it away. You can use TeamViewer or VNC to control your computer remotely and see what's on the screen, and then you can do the Wizard of Oz things from far away. You can use the PowerPoint to simulate the functionalities like I just showed you, or you can just use your programming skills since you're all software developers and just make a very crude program to simulate part of the functionality. Here I show how to do this, this interactive trick with PowerPoint. You just go to Insert, Hyperlink, and then inside here you kind of say where you want the hyperlink to go. You choose which slide in your presentation to go to. And how to do this exactly is explained here. If you click on that link, the slides will be on Blackboard. If you click on that link, you will jump to the page that will show you how to do these things. The demos you already had. Any questions? You must have questions now, because this is more complicated stuff than before. Yes? Yeah, the ones from Blackboard are from last year. After this, I will put the recordings on Blackboard, and I will put these new slides. Other questions? Okay. My room is exactly in front of this room, so you know where to find me. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to come and ask. And enjoy your lunch. Thank you.